Happy New Year and welcome to Grace Notes, the weekly community affairs show with Yorktown Supervisor Michael Grace. And Supervisor, we have a very familiar face as our quote-unquote guest.
Yeah.
Councilman Terrence Murphy. Terrence, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you guys, and hopefully it'll be a happy and prosperous one.
Yeah, well, and hopefully we're going to see you a lot more often here during this new year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, but what I like to say to people is, wishing you a better year ahead. That's nobody can argue with that sentiment.
No.
So I know Supervisor and Councilman Murphy, we want to talk a little bit about, I guess you might call it cleanup on 2012, and as you were just saying before we went on the air, how you were able to get rid of certain distractions, and now we can move ahead with a clean slate.
I think. Look, it was for me, it was the first year in office, and thank God for a lot of my background. It hasn't been town attorney, so the learning curve wasn't that steep. Yeah, and but there was a lot of house cleaning that had to be taken care of with 2012, and a lot of distractions, which really kind of bogged down some of my initiatives.
Right.
And what I'm looking forward to this year is that those things that a lot of the cleanup was done.
Well, it was big cleanup, Mike.
Yeah.
It wasn't little cleanup, and it's nothing that you should even dismay in a little way. It was a long time coming. You had the PBA contract, CSEA contract, the controller's office. There was some big cleanup that's happened.
Speaking of which, the garbage contract.
Right. And I heard there was only there was a couple of glitches here and there, but some of it has to do with the drivers learning new routes. There's some hidden, believe it or not, I guess somebody on a cul-de-sac didn't get picked up, but there's sometimes they're hidden. These properties are somewhat hidden. So we got a complaint with one lady that she had an arrangement that, even on the old garbage contract, you could contract individually with the hauler to do for them to come down your driveway, pick it up at the door rather than at the curbside. Yeah, it's an option. And so I said, I think one lady had elected to do that with CRP.
Right.
The old hauler, and the new hauler wouldn't have known that. So but all in all. I actually traveled around town, saw the competition carting out there. A lot of empty garbage pails on the side of the road. So
that's what you want.
They were out December 31st. They were coming around. We're at the little place where I live, and we had 2 5-yard dumpsters, and these guys came right in. They set it right down, and a lot of these guys were rehired through competition karting. So a lot of them already know the routes.
Right.
And they couldn't have been happy. I got a few words in with.
Oh, really? So a lot of them who worked previously have. That's
for CRP. They just rolled right over. They applied and they got hired, and it's almost like they just changed instead of a green truck to a brown truck.
Right.
Yeah. And they all got new trucks. They're all nice and shiny and new.
Right. And they have uniforms too, right?
Yeah. So it's we're wishing him the best of luck, but day one went smoothly. I expect and still do expect that it'll be a couple of weeks before all the glitches are ironed out. But it's off to a good year as far as that goes. I think
that was an enormous savings, Mike.
It was no small matter.
If it was 10, 15, $20,000, that was a different story.
Right.
This was $800,000 difference.
Right. Now let's just for a second. I'm sure both of you have seen. There have been a couple of comments where somebody might say online, "Well, that per household, that's only so much money, but it's still saving the town $800,000."
Yeah, well, and that goes into where we can go with how the whole entire taxes in the town of Yorktown are actually going down.
Right. Right.
And we haven't seen that in God knows how long.
Right. And the point of that is simply if on a $70 on an average assessment household increase, you're talking about probably I think it's $13 or $15 as a percent.
Right.
So you're talking 5-6%. So if I turned around and said I'm raising your taxes,
6%,
I'd be tarred and feathered. But if I say, well, guys, look, it's only $70 a head, What's the problem? It's only $70
Right, you
over,
can
you
turn
know,
it
come
around,
on,
right,
you don't buy the newspaper in the morning and you're taken care of.
Yeah,
So
speaking of
you-
which, some people are talking about not buying the newspaper. But
Well,
anyhow, that's another matter.
Well, that has to
Separate
do,
issue,
yeah,
right.
but, well,
Yes. Yes, you're right.
I got my, you know, it's a separate issue, but it's also, I got my bones to pick with the local press too in certain regard, you know. I mean, one thing is the press covering the news, and another thing, the press making the news. And we're talking about the revealing the illegal gun permit holders in Westchester County by the Journal News.
Right, right.
Interestingly enough, one of the things on a local level, which seems to be a theme that some of the local press wants to constantly beat the drum on, is the noticing of our
Meetings, sure,
and
right.
agendas. And I like to make it clear. Work sessions, just so everybody understands, the way the town board operates. We have two public meetings. They're all public meetings, but we have two formal town board meetings, and the first and
The third of the month.
Tuesday of every month. And at that point, we usually do our scheduled public hearings, et cetera. The town has to function. It's a $50 million corporation, has to function in between those two meetings.
Right.
And so we have work sessions, but and we try to get things done at the work sessions as much as possible.
Sure.
Not only going over what we're going to do at the public at the televised meetings, but also the business of the town, what direction we're going, look over legislation, which I could segue into something else, but I'll try to keep it. What happens is that you have to conduct the business of the town.
Right.
And sometimes the business of the town requires us to get together in between those meetings. And last
Some
week,
things come up.
yeah, and one of those things was at the end of the year, our insurance company that did insure us has just declined to cover us anymore.
Right.
And declined to cover us because of the loss really experienced under Siegel's administration, which was a lot of lawsuits that came during her tenure and a lot of suits that have followed since her tenure involving the prior administration.
Can I interrupt
So-
you for a second there? Because you started the whole show off of how, you know, a lot of the knowledge that you've gained over this being the previous town attorney here for 16 years. I think was it last year we spent close to, I think it is $600,000 on legal
on
fees.
litigation?
Yeah.
On legal fees.
Wow.
This year, I don't even think we've hit 100 or 75,000. Our town attorney did the adjustment.
Right.
We've had a tremendous amount of lawsuits the previous 2 years while I was sitting here, and this.
So did
this
that come
past
from
year.
the town settling?
Well, the problem is the town had
Oh.
the town had a very what people would normally understand as a deductible, or,
Right,
or
right.
you know what we in the business call a self insured retention, you know, which is the first $50,000 or $75,000 depending on the claim, but the public officers policy, which covers the malfeasance of the public officer, which is different than you have automobile insurance, liability insurance, you have insurance on the premises, trip and falls, you have automobile accidents, you have a public officer's policy. So should a public officer commit a tort, you know, an allegation of a civil rights violation, slander, and we had a few of them.
We had a few. Not one, not two. We had a few of them.
Yeah, they decided, and that was really within those losses sprung out of the conduct of the, you know, in my opinion, the prior supervisor. And so what happens is we own the first $50,000 to $75,000 of that lawsuit.
Right.
So that expense was getting to be a little bit out of hand.
Astronomical. Astronomical.
But what a carrier looks at the loss experience and decides, well, let's, you know, we're really unwilling to go there anymore because of the loss experience that's occurred there.
Right.
And so, but there were other things too. You know, the inventory and auditing of the physical plant, the automobiles, all those things had to be done.
Right.
You know, it's remarkable when a carrier takes a look and says, you've got aging physical plant which you haven't invested into maintaining, which hasn't been occurred. You got leaks in the roofs, which create puddles, which create slip and fall hazards. If your fleet, you know, the fleet that you run around on is old. So let's say you have police cars like 120,000 miles or highway trucks that are 20 years old, which quite a few of them are.
Right.
If I'm running around with a 10-wheeler that's 20 years old, that insurance risk is a lot higher than if I'm running around with a brand new 10-wheeler, because it's the loss experience on the older vehicles is higher because accidents are caused by mechanical failures.
Right. Wear and
So
tear.
so they take carriers take a look. It's kind of funny. We think of an automobile as I've had my car for 10 years, so I'm paying less insurance than I did when it was brand new, or because you're not carrying collision, or a comprehensive loss on your policy. But if you're looking at it from the point of view of a commercial enterprise, and you look at the fleet that your insured's going to own, and it's all an aging fleet, you're going to sit there. One of the biggest losses the town had ever experienced was. I think it was a bus truck accident up on 6, where one of the vehicles lost its brakes, went through on 6, and a bus, I think, hit the highway truck.
Oh, jeez.
And the driver was killed in the bus. Oh. So, accidents do happen, but when you're taking a look at risk management, you take a look at these things.
Right. Right.
So the more you're dealing with aged physical plant or aged vehicles or aged fleets, the higher the loss ratio.
The risk, right.
So these are things that it's kind of funny. These are things that the consequences of what are not fully thought through, and saying, well, I'll put off the purchase or I'll put off the maintenance. Well, you're exposing additional, and it's different that there are certain considerations that the town board has to consider. A lot different than an individual, and a lot different than a private business.
Company, right. Yeah.
We've done a pretty good job of wrapping that up.
Yeah, no, we did
There's the stuff that has been accomplished in 1 year. Sitting here for my 3rd year on the board, I think we did one hell of a job in 1 year of wrapping up a lot of loose ends, and putting us in a direction that is, at least as far as I'm concerned, the next 5 years, we're looking real good. Between our control and getting our finance office under control, the can was kicked down the road for 5 years for the PBA contract. Picked it up, done. Right. Those guys hadn't had a contract in 3 years. We brought it out to 2015.
Yeah,
and then CSEA. Those guys, it was give and take, give and take. You came in, it's done.
No, and it's
a lot of big things had got accomplished this year, and it's no small feat of, the previous, I was on the previous administration, but we couldn't come to terms, and, I just don't know why, but it was never come to terms, and, it was done in a year, and with all that being said and done, people in the town of Yorktown, your town taxes are going down.
And this is
all that accomplished.
Right. We did upgrades in our fleet. I think we ended up. I think
gas, boy.
Yeah, the fuels. Yeah, which is
stuff
the fuel
like that.
dispensing systems all new and now computerized. And we added 4 new 10-wheelers to the highway department, 2 brand new ones, and two that we ended up getting from the water
2 police
department.
cars.
We had 2 police cars. So there's a lot of things that had to be. One of the things that we did is which is things that don't get the press, is that we've now got a building and grounds committee. We've also got a fleet committee.
Right.
So which involves the department heads that are in charge of the physical
real
plant.
Fleet committee.
Yeah.
Right.
And that makes a big difference.
One person.
Yeah. And
right.
Yeah.
One person can't do all that, and that's what was going on here.
Yeah.
Right.
There's just certain procedural things that happened within it that are making this place function
more efficiently. Yeah.
Sure.
Right.
And checks and balances.
Checks and balances. Yes. Right. Exactly. And speaking of things like that, I know you're about to name a new appointment for controller, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Pat Caporal and
who was the deputy?
Right.
Right.
And by making that move, we've saved
$90,000.
Yeah.
What I was getting at that finance office, and I've been in there quite a few times, and the girls up there just seem to be, new paint is on the wall, new rug is down there. I mean, they really have done an unbelievable job after losing Joan and Pat stepping up to the plate, and the other girls in the finance office you had a salary of 110 and between, but we're saving the town $90,000 and we don't have to backfill her spot.
Right.
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 And that's
90 grand.
a lot of that has to do with the automation of the purchasing.
software,
The
right.
software
Yeah.
that we
Yes.
do. So a lot of good things happened. Last year there was a lot of distractions, and I unfortunately, so a lot of things, a lot of initiatives that we did push kind of got pushed back. We had the big distraction of the DPW, which
Right.
was, in hindsight, it was fine. Hopefully that's put to rest. We fully explored it. It was going to cost the town more money.
Right.
And so,
Fair. These are things that the people have come up to us.
Right, yeah,
We've
that's
listened to them, and if you can save us money, we are more than welcome to listen to you.
Right.
Absolutely. And it just didn't, the T's didn't cross and the I's didn't
But
dot.
I'm gonna give you a quick kind of perspective on things. The people from the DPW were making a claim it's going to save $250,000, and this was the big impetus and
Right.
big push to do all this to get rid of the highway superintendent and everything else. All right. And in the end analysis, it was based upon a 1995 analysis where the whole makeup of the town and
different, yeah, right.
managerial makeup was completely different, and you had in-house town engineers and everything else. So, but so we examined it. That was debunked. It was going to cost us money. But just to put in perspective, we spent an enormous amount of time and energy on this, and fine. And that's what we to fully vet it, over $250,000. Garbage contract saved us $800,000.
Right. Right.
Oh, more than 3 times that savings.
Right. Yes.
And you go to do that on the so we actually were able to find some place where you really had the savings.
Right.
Now, it wasn't imaginary, it wasn't speculative, it was actual savings of 3 times that amount. And you get a headwind even after doing that, because people sit there and go, wait a second, I didn't mind paying this other guy 70, whatever it came.
Right.
Well, you know what, you spent an enormous amount of time vetting a possible savings of $200,000, which turned out not to be true. Right. And we were able to save you $800,000, and it's sort of like, well, we're not interested.
Yeah, but this happened last year.
It wasn't our idea.
Well, pretty much. This had come onto the board last year, the garbage.
Right.
And, Mr. Amico had been trying to get in touch up in front of the town board, it was still, no. Finally, he gets up, calls me up, said, put him on the agenda, put him on the agenda. Poor guy couldn't get up here for more than 15 minutes, was shut down, and then they took a vote on it. I said, no, there's no way I'm voting on this. It was $1 million increase.
Right.
Our garbage from last year to this year was $1 million. It was the biggest town tax increase of your town taxes was the garbage refuse from last year.
Right.
So what we do? Take a look at it.
Right.
So I said voted. It was a 4-1 vote. I voted against it in favor of giving CPR their contract again because I didn't think it was vetted properly, and we didn't cross our T's and dot our I's. Long or short, come back this year, comes out, $800,000 savings.
No, and the other thing, too, is like you're saying, Supervisor Grace, people want to save money, and they were talking about the DPW saving a $250,000, but then when you're saving them $800,000, it's as if the reaction becomes, you can't be saving that much money, there must be something wrong with it, right? That's basically what
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Absolutely. You're not doing that. You can't be saving that.
can't save that
That's
money.
impossible.
Right.
And the thing is that,
sure.
look, we really are trying to take, you have to make bold moves, and because that's really what if you constantly,
was.
Because if you're constantly working the margins, you're never never getting anywhere. Right. You got to make the bold moves, and the thing is, and I can only control the town of Yorktown. I can't control what the county does. I can't control what the state does, and certainly nobody's got any control over what the federal government does. The thing is,
Less than ever, actually.
So the thing is that you got to, look, I know it. I hear it every day. I hear it as a supervisor. I hear it as a private attorney to people. Things are very tough.
Right,
And
yeah.
we had the discussion even before coming on here. It's still the scenario where you can't afford to leave and you can't afford to stay.
Right.
And what that beholds for the future is not very good, because what you're going to do is if you look at the demographics, is who's moving into the town. Demographics aren't very good.
Right.
they don't bode well for the long-term health of the community, and that's not just the community, but it's the state, it's in total. So you have to start to do something. You have to be, and it really requires bold moves. And there are bold moves that you can make that can accomplish these things. Even, but we can do it on the local level. We also need the state to do it on the state level. But you can do it. One of the things that we will, through all these distractions, and again, to me, the three biggest distractions last year, which ended up being real tempest in a teapot kind of situation, were Holland Sporting Club. All right, we got that done. There was resistance by the prior, administration to deal with Mr. DiBartolo and have Highway do it. That stemmed really from the supervisor's relationship with the highway superintendent, and that was it. He ended up doing it. He ended up saving us another, $50,000-$70,000 on that.
$75,000.
Got the job done and got it done well. We had the distraction of the DPW that went on for who knows how long and too long. And again, you're talking about working.
Get off track a little bit instead of just keep moving.
And to me, that was working the margins. You're talking about really working the margins, because what you were looking at, you couldn't, the numbers didn't work out, and there's as much of an expense as it was a savings. And you're talking about working at the margins, and to me, that was really just an issue of trying to gain additional control over people that you didn't have control over, and that's really what it was. And then the last distraction was the controller's office. Because it used to drive me crazy to sit there and have to read in the papers about what she says, what I say, blah 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 blah. The bottom line is that third week into the second week being here, I tried to implement and install this new software. Based upon the first 2 weeks I was here and seeing how that office was.
Can I interrupt you there for 1 second? This software that the supervisor's talking about is called KVS. It's a software that department heads, when you make your budget, it's put in there so the department head would actually be able to monitor their own budget. That has never been the way. That has never hasn't been what has been formulated now. If you're Parks and Rec supervisor, you can go in there and say, okay, I have $400 in that line item. I can turn around and I can go buy my popcorn machine or whatever it is he needs to be. Stuff like that. Previously, he would have to submit to the controller to see if it was okay for him to spend that money. Meanwhile, he already knew he had it in his so it was just, red tape. And if the whole thing was, no one ever got paid in this town for years. No one wanted to do business in this town because they wouldn't get paid for a minimum of 6 months to a year.
So you had vendors not dealing with the town. So you knock out bidders in the competitive bidding process. It was a complete and utter mess. Well, I went to go to institute that, I think, within the first couple of weeks I was here. And all I did was get this wall of resistance from the sitting controller at the time. And really what it was because it was a matter of control. Without it, the control disappeared. With it, the control it remained. And so, we pushed and pushed and pushed, and it was really getting to the point of I was exasperated by the whole thing at the end of the day, because it was just, we were doing a pilot program, then that got derailed, and it wasn't be able to, you couldn't get the contracts out. And it was just one, roadblock after the other. And in hindsight, I can see why. We dropped a position and a half out of the controller's office by just putting that software in. We decentralized what was a power that was centralized in the controls office that shouldn't have been there in the first place. And
Actually, let department heads control their department and their budget. And then at the end, you can oversee as the controller. But you don't micromanage. And like I said, you do business in this town, you wouldn't get paid for 6 months, and people don't want to do business in the town anymore. But we've changed that. They're coming back.
And it makes a big difference. It makes but then we had this whole distraction about her taking vacation time, which is now in litigation as well.
So you're saying vacation time to which she wasn't.
She was not entitled.
Right.
The issue there is that you need, in order to have that, the town board had to make a resolution. It had to, and the resolution had to be on file, because then it's binding against the subsequent town board. Without that in place, I don't care what the informal arrangement was made. I don't know anything about it, and I can't reconstitute every board that ever existed while she had her tenure here
Right.
to decide what is it that you decided to do.
Right.
So the thing is, you know, a lot of these things. So you know, we then cleared up. One of the things we did this year, we have the CSEA, which is our rank and file. We have PBA, so we cleared up PBA. PBA, like Terrence said, was 5 years of contract. So when I hear the ex-supervisor or come in and say, well, you know, your town tax line, well, your town tax line, that portion and that line in the budget went up, but it wasn't because of something this board did. It was because the
5
can
years
was
ago.
kicked down the road on a PBA contract.
Right.
So without the savings from the garbage contract, you may have had a tax increase. So, you know, these things do make a difference.
Right.
But the people there's a certain group of employees that are not covered by the union, and they are department heads. They don't get overtime. They get a salary, and
Managerial.
Yeah, managerial.
Yes. Right.
So the if you go back and you know the Joan Goldberg thing pointed it out. You go back, there was no set rules or protocol as to how department heads were dealt with. There was confusion.
Right.
All right. So
Went through her.
right. So we you know, one of the things we did at the end of this year was to start to settle that.
Right.
And we've now established a policy as to vacation rollover. One of the things somebody blogged about it was that we paid out some unused vacation to certain department heads.
Right.
The point is that you're going to do it in the year that it's unused rather than do it in the year that they leave, because the salary difference is huge. So as for instance, the controller took 2 years rolled over 2 years of vacation in year one. She leaves in year 16. You're not paying her based upon year one salary. You're basing it on year 16
The
salary.
most
Yeah,
recent
yeah.
salary.
So
right,
that 2 year rollover vacation in year one,
Right.
all right, when she started the job at 50,000 and leaves at 110, not only, I mean, you can't get a savings account that gives you that much return.
Yeah, right. I
So,
know.
so the thing is, you know, and it's at the expense of the taxpayer. So, you know, all these things we started to straighten out.
Mike, not to belabor that point, but what's most disturbing to me is that our controller cut herself a check for $77,000, and not one board member knew anything about it.
And
Yeah, right.
Nothing about it, and
That's
it
what
was
the
a
lawsuit-
direct
town's lawsuit is
deposit.
about.
And
Yeah.
correct me if I'm speaking out of with the lawsuit and everything, but it was direct deposited into her account. And Mike had asked, says, "Listen, just please get the controller's timesheets and let's figure out what we owe." And so she already cut herself a check, like a $77,000 check. That, listen, I was elected to be a watchdog for the town of Yorktown and to watch our taxes.
Right.
When a check for $77,000 is going out and not one board member knows anything about it, that's a problem. That's a major problem. And that will not happen again. We've put in enough checks and balances to make sure that we crossed our T's, dot our I's, and when anything over X amount has got to be either signed off by the supervisor or be acknowledged by him
Right.
or the town board.
Yeah, it's the way it should be.
Well, it's common sense, you would think. But obviously, it wasn't.
No, there's a lot. You know, it's funny. You know, you know, there's a lot of little detailed, you know, things that are being done to get the town working smooth. And I'm going to tell you, you know, I plan to leave this place running a lot better
But you found it.
than I
right.
found it. And the thing is, a lot of it, you know, a lot of the you know, a lot of the things that make headlines don't. You know, there's those things, and then there's the day-to-day things that you take care of and you chug through, and so. You know, so I think we had a very good year in at least creating a new foundation for a much brighter future for the town as far as the inner workings, you know,
Absolutely agree.
of the town. What happens between the, you know, dealing with the fleet, dealing with the buildings, dealing with,
Right.
you know, procurement.
But even the camaraderie of the town employees, I
Right.
think that, you know, it went from here to here. Between the CSEA employees, between,
Right.
you know, the PBA guys, you know, we've tried getting them, making sure that they were taken care of. Yes, maybe, you know, we're in round 2 now with CSEA. We'll see what happens with them. They negotiated with us. It's time for us to come and negotiate with them in good faith. You know, they've really, I think, have taken a leap of faith in working with, you know, your administration, my administration. But the reality is that, you know, it's nice to walk into your job being happy
Right.
And not walking in going, I got to come here again. You know, there's something that's a priceless moment. You know what I mean? One of those things that you can't put a value on that. And I think that's where we're going and where we've almost reached, where a lot of the town employees are much happier coming to work than having to go, I got to come here again. I got to come here again. So that in itself is a big windfall for myself.
And to that point, you have to understand. I mean, you get some headwind about trying to do right. About raises and this. What the public has to understand, there's been a huge attrition of the workforce over the years. So you got a lot of people doing a lot more.
Yes.
That they hadn't done in the past. So you're overworking them, and if you can't constantly just come out with a whip all the time.
Right.
It doesn't work.
No,
it doesn't
not at
work.
all.
You have to be
You
conscious of the morale of your
you're
workforce.
absolutely right. Yeah, it
as
can't always
well.
be punitive.
Right. So I think and that to be the public has to be conscious of that. So when God forbid you could say anybody that's in the public sector is getting a raise because and you know what, and the knee-jerk reaction even for me is you got to be kidding.
They are.
Well, I mean, if I PBA or
Think about
CSE,
unions.
But
think about
it. But on the other hand, you can't. You have to be. You have to be fair to these people as well.
No, you're right.
And
That's
it's
right.
always striking that balance. So, I think the other thing is that
But we've asked department heads to go out and when they came in, they hadn't gotten a raise in 4 or 5 years.
Right.
Listen, go out in Westchester County, figure out what your salary, bring up who's making what
benchmark it. You have to
in
benchmark
Greenberg.
it.
Give us an idea.
Right.
Let me tell you, you'd be sad to say these guys were almost at the bottom of the barrel.
Right. Oh, I mean in
In
Yorktown.
Yorktown,
Right. Yeah.
they were at the bottom of the barrel.
Right.
And you can't keep beating them down.
No,
you're going to
I
get more out of guy saying, listen, come in here, you're doing a great job here. That guy's going to stay the extra 15 minutes for you without banging you for the overtime.
Right.
He's going to go the extra step for you without. No, that's just part of, it's a skill of managing people and dealing with people. That's all.
you look what Park and Recs did for us this year. We lost the supervisor of Park and Recs. Jen Faber went over to
Long
Brookhaven
Island.
or something.
No, Hempstead.
Hempstead.
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
So we had we got Brian Gray and Todd, which is
they're
two
great
guys that just
Couldn't have been any better.
And this
Great guys.
year,
Been any
the
better.
kind of programs they ran, the parade, the candlelight vigil. I mean, all that require all this stuff. The Relay for Life. All this requires these Park and Rec guys to show up and do the right thing. And these guys have done it time and time again.
Yep.
So. You have to start to be fair back to these people. And
the thing about it, of course, is you have to be fair to them within your means.
Right.
I mean, you can't. You still have to manage your own.
But
budget.
the point taken there, Bruce, PBA was settled. They got their increase. CSEA was settled. Garbage contract. 3 major things in the town of Yorktown have been settled. Holland Sporting Club. And your taxes went down.
Right, which is pretty
I don't
amazing.
think
That
we're
is
the only.
amazing,
I think
yeah.
we're the only town in Westchester County that the town's municipality tax is going down.
Right. I think I would venture to say that we're the only municipal entity in the
New York
State. New York State.
Probably, yeah.
to see a decrease.
Well, settling those contracts and doing that.
Yeah. No, it was a good year, and what we're looking for
And still being healthy.
Right.
And still being healthy. No,
Next-
I don't mean both physically and financially for the town. I mean, we're in good shape.
Yeah, and the thing is that we're looking to what we're looking to do. I mean, the next phase, and hopefully next year we'll start. Now that we have a lot of these distractions behind us, I think we can move ahead with a lot of the initiatives that kind of came out in the first couple of months of my administration, which kind of got waylaid. Back to 202. Back to the highway garage. Let's see if we can move that. Start to look at the land use and development regulations. I was a little chagrined. We the last meeting in December, we proposed ordinance to change the parking requirements in commercial districts to go from 5 spaces per 1,000 square feet to 4 spaces per 1,000 square feet. There is nobody, and there's very few municipalities that require 5 spaces per 1,000 square feet. They've all moved away from it, and that used to be the kind of the standard. Nobody adheres to that standard for a lot of different reasons. The reasons are, essentially 5 is excessive. You end up with a lot of empty lots. If you go around anywhere in the town of Yorktown,
Right, you
there's
see a lot of
empty lots.
spaces, yeah, empty spaces.
What happens is, even as far as the impervious surfaces are created, would be building or parking, you get more building and less parking. So the revenue creation for the town is much
Right.
better because a parking space doesn't
Generate.
generate the revenue, the building does. So we were moving forward on that. I had one councilman who said that likened it to Obamacare. I have to read it before I pass on it. And the bottom line is 5 pages, which he had on his desk for 2 weeks, and which we had a work session on several times. So
Yeah.
I don't know what the lack of understanding was, but putting that aside, this is the type of initiative I think that I was elected, to start to take a
lead,
look at.
yes.
These are the boldest steps that you have to take. You have to take the bold steps.
But it's
because-
good for the business community, and it was good for the environmental community.
Right.
It was good for both. It was a nice, happy median because you would have less impervious surface here, you'd have some more trees in the area, and you'd still be able to control having enough parking spots to run your business. So it was a win-win.
Yeah, no,
And
yeah.
and Councilman Bianco, he asked us to hold off, and respectfully. So Supervisor said we'll take it up on the next meeting, and we always treat each other with respect and be cordial. And someone asks for a postponement, we usually grant it. Most of the time we grant it.
No, I had no problem granting it. There was a little.
Yeah, no, I get it.
The little dig about I haven't seen it. Well, I didn't try to dig them back and say, well, it's been sitting on you. And the point is, though, this is the kind of thing that you need to do because it's not.
Yeah.
This is not. It's
a no-brainer.
Right. You
common sense.
You talk about vacant lots. You talk about redevelopment of old physical plant. So you have certain buildings that maybe they're beyond their useful life. It would be nice to see the properties redeveloped, and you start to create incentives for the redevelopment of new property. I guess the anti-Costco people were upset because I guess Costco, has an issue of what spaces per 1,000 square feet they're looking to get, but they're not a strict retail use. They're about warehouse use.
Right.
The regulations are already probably at 4 per 1,000. This would settle the issue, even if they were at a full retail use, would be at 4 per 1,000. Right. So I guess the anti-Costco group say, oh, this is, well, you know what, that it makes that work. And the thing is, you got to understand.
Would have been smarter. It would have been smarter to keep that. You know what I mean? With the anti-Costco people, you're getting less pervious surface.
Right.
So you're having more trees, you're having more greenery,
Right.
There's less stormwater runoff. Those are things that's what I'm saying. It was a balance between business and environmental, and it's a nice combination.
Right.
And you had someone come up and talk about curb cuts, and they're going to trip over. The reality is that you're going to have curb cuts wherever there's a business. People actually need to ingress and egress, get in and out of a business. So, the reality is that, you're going to have these things, and we thought it was a no-brainer. It was common sense, really.
did, yeah.
It was a 5-minute, we thought it was 5 minutes, turned into almost 2.5 hours.
Right.
So, but this is the kind, it actually.
Run into those things.
Right. But I mean, you have to start to do this, and the point is that you're looking at a code for the most part. A lot of the more meaty stuff is 30, 35, maybe 40 years old.
Right.
And the inertia in not looking at it is got to stop.
Catches up with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
right,
you,
right.
Well, one of the supervisors' initiatives too was to take a department head in here and say, listen, I know the code says this, but if this code is 35 years old,
Right.
let's make sure that it's up to date. And if it needs to be revisited, revisit it while the applicant's coming in.
Right.
So there's, instead of just
Common
going, well,
sense.
no, the code
Common
says this,
sense.
no, and common sense is telling you, no, we should do this.
Right.
So that's where I think, and our department heads are excellent.
Yeah.
They've really done a great job.
But the practical impact on it is, and then people have to understand this. You talk about taxes again, okay? If you have a decrease in assessed value, your revenue is going to decrease, and you got to even to stay the same. in terms of everything remaining the same, you have to make up for that decrease in assessment. So
Right.
just a decrease in assessment may raise your taxes.
Right.
So you really want to, and it's not saying that you have to constantly build new, but recreating.
Sure.
And reinvigorating your tax base is an important aspect of leadership in a town. So you want to do things that will encourage the reinvestment back into
Right.
aged physical, plant, especially aged commercial, structures.
Oh, sure, yeah.
The moving a highway garage, I think, is going to be a big bonus to the town
Right.
because it becomes a valuable piece of property.
Yeah.
The value, which will far exceed what it would cost us to put a new state-of-the-art green highway facility
Right.
on property owned by the town. And the what it would do to the downtown Heights
Just gonna
area
say,
would be
revitalize that whole
unbelievable.
area.
Right, right, yeah, no,
Yeah,
no.
so the thing is, and for that to just, to say, well, the problem with these things is it takes some, you have to be a little bold about
Yeah,
it.
no, you're right.
And,
Yeah.
and if you're not willing to, again, if you're not willing to be bold, then things remain the same.
Right.
You have to, you have to be bold about your leadership. So it's,
Right.
I think, hopefully within the next year, we're going to start to see some really positive things, because we will be minus the
Distractions,
storm.
some of the
Things that
distractions,
drag-
some
drag
big
you down,
distractions.
Yeah, right, the drag. And just wrapping this up, I just want to say something. I'm going to embarrass the supervisor in a very positive way. But that is, I have this from a very reliable source, too. That, of course, you interact with other town supervisors, mayors or whatever of cities, like with Hurricane Sandy.
Right, absolutely.
And, to anybody who knows you or has been watching you, it should come as no surprise. But I think it really does speak volumes in a whole different way that, from this reliable source, I was told that when other town supervisors will come across a certain problem, they'll say, let's call Michael Grace. He'll know what to do. I mean, really. I mean, I've been told that, and
That's nice.
by somebody who firsthand knows, and I think that's a great testament.
Yeah,
to
no,
the job
I
that-
do.
the leadership that you've shown, and
Yeah,
your
it's been good.
smarts, it's,
Well, I get I have gotten some of those calls.
Yeah.
One's, I think the garbage thing was
right,
made a big splash in the county.
right.
And also, I'm going to tell you the way we handled Hurricane Sandy on
Right,
a local
no, that's-
level.
right.
We got a lot. We got a lot of phone calls because of our CERT team and how that was set up. So I know we're getting a lot of that.
Right.
Other thing is we also, the Sandy Hook tragedy has also prompted other towns to take a look at what we do in terms of we have student resource officers that we
Right,
do
right,
have.
that's right.
And we do, the middle schools and the high schools do have,
Right,
an
SROs,
armed police
yeah,
officer
right.
there, which at one point in time, they got some resistance about that. So,
Right.
and now it's,
It
so,
was almost cut out of the last budget.
Yeah.
Last year's budget.
yeah, so.
No way.
Yeah, no, we had resistance, there's some municipalities share, the school district overlaps two municipalities. Our neighboring municipality was a little bit I don't know if they was reluctant about it, but they dragged their feet a little bit.
Right.
But I think they, called it, and they actually reinforced their support for that program before the Sandy Hook incident. So,
The tragedy up in Sandy Hook was just absolutely incredible.
Oh, no,
I
it's,
mean,
it's unfortunately, in the worst possible way, it's a transformative tragedy, as we've been seeing.
Yeah,
right?
it's a game
It's
changer.
changing
Well,
policies. Yeah.
But getting back to your SRO officer, not only do you have an armed police officer on campus, but those officers, they have the pulse on some of those kids. They know what
Absolutely.
kids
Oh,
are in
yeah,
trouble.
right.
They know what kids are.
Right, that's right.
And when the kid's walking in with a Coca-Cola can that's full of vodka, get over here. And I would have
No, you're
never
right.
thought of that. And they've learned the tricks from
Right.
just being by osmosis, just being on the campus and knowing, walking the halls and seeing who's in trouble, seeing who's not, know what to tell. That's priceless.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
I to tell you, I'll just give it another, one of our biggest budget items is the PBA, and that was one of the biggest increases in last year's budget. But I would hope that the public have the same feeling about their loyalty to their old garbage hauler as they would to those that provide them safety.
Right, that's right,
That it's
protect
a
us,
really
yeah.
worthwhile investment.
Right.
And that should that be the driving force in tax increases,
Right.
understand where it's going.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
It's well
You
worth
know
it.
what,
Yeah,
after Sandy Hook, when the police officers, Chief McMahon, I think you know about, sent the police officer out to every single school.
Right, I know.
My daughter was
I
deathly
remember when
afraid.
I drive past Brookside, the next morning, there
Right.
were police cars at Brookside.
St.
Yeah,
Pat's.
Right,
Say
right,
they
yeah.
didn't
Son
do it
Jack,
to-
who's here, they were afraid to go into school.
Yeah. No,
And
that
I
was
saw the
very
police
smart.
officer here, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Daddy, it's
Just
okay.
sort of, just comfort people.
You
right
got
away.
it, absolutely, absolutely.
yeah.
But we're looking forward, we're looking forward to
year.
2013, sans the distractions, and hopefully we'll push ahead. And,
Yeah.
and,
Ah, this was great.
All right,
Thanks
yeah,
for having
Councilman
me.
Murphy.
oh,
Well, you'll be back.
we'll be back
Very
more
quickly,
often.
right. All right.
You may like.
And so that wraps up another Grace Notes. Grace Notes. It's a new year. You have to give me some slack.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Thank you to Councilman Terrence Murphy, and on behalf of Supervisor Michael Grace, thanks for watching, and be sure to catch us next time and every time, because Yorktown is your town.